Most people think cats are random. One minute they're staring at a wall like they've seen another dimension. The next they're crushing your stomach with their paws. Then 5 minutes later they're sprinting through the house like a tiny maniac. It looks chaotic. It looks impossible to understand. But here's what most cat owners miss. Your cat is usually not being weird for no reason. It's responding to the world in ways that made perfect sense long before it ever lived in your home. And once you see the pattern, some of the behaviors that seem the strangest start feeling deeply personal. Because the truth is, cats don't waste energy the way people think they do. If they repeat something, there is usually a reason behind it. Sometimes that reason is instinct. Sometimes it's stress relief. Sometimes it's comfort. And sometimes it's your cat showing trust in a language most humans never learn to read. One of the biggest examples of that happens when your cat climbs onto you, starts pushing its paws in and out like it's kneading bread, and maybe even gets so relaxed that it starts drooling. A lot of people laugh this off as a cute little quirk, but kneading is one of the clearest windows into how safe your cat feels with you. Kittens do this while nursing because that motion helps stimulate milk flow from their mother. So when an adult cat does it on your blanket, your lap, or your chest, it is often slipping into one of the most secure emotional states it can experience. Not childish in a silly way, safe in a deep body-level way. That rhythmic motion is tied to comfort, warmth, and the memory of complete protection. That's why cats often knead when they're especially relaxed, sleepy, or affectionate. Their claws may come out, not because they're trying to hurt you, but because the action itself is automatic. For some cats, the comfort is so intense that they start purring heavily, half close their eyes, or drool a little. To a human, that may seem odd. To a cat, it's a sign that the nervous system has dropped its guard. And that matters because cats don't give up that kind of vulnerability easily. A cat can enjoy being around you and still stay alert. But a cat that melts into kneading is showing something stronger. It's saying this space feels safe enough to fully soften. That's not a small thing from an animal designed to stay watchful. Now, here's where many owners get it wrong. They think, if my cat really loved me, it would knead all the time. Not necessarily. Some cats knead a lot. Some barely do it. Personality, early experience, and body preference all play a role. A cat might love you deeply and show it in completely different ways. So the better question isn't, does my cat knead? It's, when my cat does relax, what does safety look like for them? For some cats, safety looks like kneading. For others, it looks like rubbing their face on your legs the second you walk through the door. And that behavior gets misunderstood too. People assume the cat is just saying hello. But scent is doing far more work there than most owners realize. In your cat's world, smell is not background information. It is identity, territory, reassurance, and social memory all at once. When your cat rubs its cheeks against furniture, corners, or your ankles, it is leaving scent from glands around the face. That scent isn't there to make things smell stronger to you. It's there to make the environment feel familiar to the cat. In other words, your cat is building a map of what belongs, what feels safe, and what is part of its world. And when that rubbing is directed at you, something important is happening. You are not just the giant who opens food cans. You are being folded into that world. This is especially noticeable when you come home from outside. You've been carrying strange smells all day. Other people, other buildings, the outdoors, maybe another animal. Your cat often meets you at the door and starts rubbing as if it needs to fix something. In a sense, it does. It's restoring the familiar. It's layering your shared scent back on top of everything foreign you brought in. That can look possessive, but it's often more reassuring than aggressive. Your cat is making you smell like home again, and that leads to one of the strangest compliments cats give, one that many owners recoil from without realizing what it means. Because when your cat turns around, lifts its tail, and presents its backside to you, it may feel rude to a human. In feline body language, it can mean exactly the opposite. To us, that rear-end presentation feels ridiculous. To a cat, it can be one of the clearest signs of trust. Cats are careful animals. They protect vulnerable parts of their body and stay aware of what's happening around them. So when a cat turns away from you, raises its tail, and casually exposes itself, that's not disrespect. It's the opposite of defensiveness. Your cat is behaving like an animal that does not expect danger from you. Among cats, scent exchange is a major part of social communication. They gather information through smell in ways humans simply don't. So that awkward little pose can function like an invitation into their social world, not because they think like humans, but because this is how cats share closeness and familiarity. And if your cat does this while being petted, especially while lifting the lower back a little higher, it can also mean you've found an area that feels good to them. Not every cat likes the same kind of touch, but many enjoy attention around the base of the tail because it's a very sensitive area. That same trust shows up in a softer way when your cat licks you. People often assume the cat is tasting salt on their skin, and that's the whole story. Sometimes the taste does play a role, but that explanation is too small for what's really happening. Licking is often social. In cat groups that get along well, you'll see grooming behaviors that strengthen bonds and reinforce familiarity. It's not just about cleanliness, it's about connection. So, when your cat licks your hand, arm, or even your hair, it may be doing more than grooming. It may be including you in a relationship pattern normally reserved for trusted companions. This is one of the clearest examples of cats expressing affection in a way that doesn't always look affectionate to humans. It can feel rough, a little obsessive, sometimes even annoying, but underneath it is often a simple message. You are close enough to touch, close enough to groom, close enough to belong with me. Of course, context matters. If the licking becomes intense or non-stop, boredom, stress, or over-arousal can be part of the picture. Cats do not only use behaviors for one reason. That's one of the biggest misconceptions cat owners have. They want one action to equal one meaning every time. But cat behavior is more like a conversation. The same action can shift depending on timing, environment, body language, and the cat's emotional state in that moment. And that brings us to another behavior people misread constantly. When a cat meows at a closed door, gets the door opened, looks inside for 2 seconds, and then walks away as if it never cared in the first place. To humans, this feels like trolling. To a cat, it's often about control and access, not necessarily a desire to stay in that room. Cats are territorial, but not in the cartoon sense of wanting to dominate everything dramatically. Their comfort depends on knowing what spaces are available, what's happening around them, and whether they can move where they need to move. A closed door interrupts that sense of environmental control. It creates a blind spot, and for an animal wired to monitor its surroundings, blind spots can be unsettling. That's why some cats will insist on an open door and then immediately lose interest once it's open. The goal was not always the room itself. The goal was removing uncertainty. Once the barrier is gone and the space is checked, the tension disappears. To the cat, the environment makes sense again. You see a similar logic when your cat sits directly on your laptop, your book, your notebook, or whatever has your full attention. Many owners joke that cats are jealous. In a human emotional sense, that's probably too simple. But your cat is definitely reacting to something real. Your focus has moved away from them, and they've noticed. Cats are extremely good at learning what gets a response. If your hands are on the keyboard for an hour, and your eyes stay fixed on that glowing rectangle, your cat can very quickly decide that this object must be important. And if sitting on it causes you to speak, move, touch, or react, that behavior gets reinforced almost immediately. Add warmth, your scent, and a flat place to lie down, and suddenly your work setup becomes prime cat real estate. But there's another layer here. Cats don't always seek attention by making noise. Often, they insert themselves into the path of your attention. It's subtle, but effective. They're not trying to understand email. They're trying to redirect the social connection back toward themselves. And honestly, a lot of them get very good at it. Still, some cat behaviors are less about affection and more about pure instinct. In fact, one of the most frustrating habits owners complain about is often a mix of curiosity, hunting logic, and learned cause and effect. If your cat likes to stare at an object, tap it once, tap it again, and then calmly shove it off the table while maintaining eye contact, what looks like attitude may actually reveal something much more primitive. When a cat knocks something off a table, people often take it personally. They think the cat is being spiteful, dramatic, or bad. But cats are not little villains plotting against your coffee mug. Most of the time, that paw swipe comes from a far simpler system. Investigate, test, react. A cat's paw is one of its main tools for understanding the world. Before biting, before committing to a jump, before deciding whether something matters, many cats poke. They tap, they nudge, they check how an object moves, sounds, or responds. In the wild, tiny movement matters. Something that shifts might be prey. Something that rolls might be worth chasing. Something that makes a sharp noise might become very interesting very quickly. So when your cat bats a pen, a bottle cap, or your earbuds off the edge, that can be part curiosity and part reward. The object moves, it falls, it makes a sound. Sometimes it bounces, sometimes you react instantly, and that last part is huge. Cats learn fast. If knocking one thing over reliably gets your attention, the behavior can stop being just a test and start becoming a strategy. That's why scolding often doesn't fix it. To you, raised voices mean disapproval. To many cats, a big emotional reaction still counts as engagement. The object fell, the human responded, the event became memorable. A better solution is usually environmental. Put fragile things away, give the cat legal things to chase and bat around, and increase interactive play so the urge to hunt and manipulate objects has somewhere better to go. And that same hunt-test-react pattern explains another behavior owners find confusing. When the cat suddenly explodes into motion and tears through the house like it was launched from another planet. Those random sprints across the hallway, onto the couch, off the bed, around the corner, and back again are often what people call the zoomies. They look absurd, but they're not meaningless. Cats are built for bursts. Unlike endurance animals, they don't usually move at a moderate pace for long stretches just because they feel like it. Their natural rhythm is often conserve energy. Scan, stalk, burst, recover. Indoor life changes the setting, but it doesn't erase that pattern. So when physical energy, mental stimulation, or predatory drive builds up with no satisfying outlet, it can come out all at once. This is one reason the zoomies often happen after using the litter box, after a nap, in the evening, or in the middle of the night. The cat's body is essentially saying, now. Now is the moment to move, and if that need has been simmering under the surface, the release can look intense. Dilated pupils, fast turns, sideways hops, a puffed tail, a sprint that seems to have no purpose. But from the cat's perspective, the body is doing exactly what it was designed to do. A common misconception is that zoomies mean your cat is out of control or somehow unstable. Usually, they mean the opposite. In many cases, a cat that still expresses playful bursts, chases, leaps, and rapid motion is showing healthy energy. The real question is whether the household gives that energy a safe place to land. If the only exciting thing in your cat's world is your moving feet under a blanket at midnight, your cat is going to make use of what's available, which helps explain one of the most startling habits of all, the ambush. You walk past the sofa, a furry blur launches at your ankle, then it vanishes like nothing happened. Owners sometimes worry this means aggression, but in a lot of cats, especially younger or understimulated ones, this is not hostility. It's an unfinished hunting sequence looking for a target. Ambush play draws on ancient wiring. Hide, wait, track movement, launch, grab, release. That sequence is deeply satisfying to a predator. Even when the prey is just your leg moving down the hallway, your cat is not sitting behind the chair thinking, I want to attack my owner. It's more like the motion itself triggered a pattern that the cat was born ready to complete. That said, the difference between playful ambush and a real problem is intensity. If your cat is using full force, biting hard, clinging, or showing body language that looks tense and agitated rather than excited and bouncy, then something more than simple play may be happening. But for many cats, the issue is not malice. It's unmet predatory energy. And this is where a lot of owners unknowingly make things worse. They try to stop the bad behavior without replacing the need underneath it. But cats don't just need affection and food. They need to stalk, chase, pounce, and complete sequences that make their nervous system feel satisfied. When that doesn't happen, the behavior doesn't vanish. It leaks into the house in weird ways. Which is also why some cats become obsessed with the strangest objects imaginable. Plastic bags, charging cords, crunchy packaging. Things that seem to have no value to a human can become irresistible to a cat for reasons that are more revealing than they first appear. Plastic, cords, wrappers, dangling strings. To us, these are just household objects. To a cat, they can hit several triggers at once. The texture may feel satisfying on the teeth. The crackling sound can mimic the tiny, sharp noises of prey movement. A cord dragged across the floor can move just enough like a tail to wake up the hunting brain. And if a cat is bored, understimulated, teething, or stressed, those objects can become even more tempting. That doesn't mean every cat chewing plastic has a major problem, but it does mean the behavior should be taken seriously, because some of the objects cats choose are genuinely dangerous. What matters most is not labeling the cat as destructive. It's asking what need this behavior might be trying to meet. Does the cat need more play, more chewing-safe alternatives, more environmental enrichment, less access to risky objects? Cats usually do better when you redirect the urge than when you only punish the outcome. The same logic applies to another habit that confuses owners: drinking from the tap while ignoring a perfectly good water bowl. People assume the cat is being fussy just to be difficult. But many cats are drawn to moving water because, on an instinctive level, moving water often reads as fresher and safer than still water. Add in the sound, the motion, and the fact that some cats dislike bowls that press on their whiskers, and suddenly the faucet makes a lot more sense. This is one of those moments where understanding behavior can genuinely improve health. Cats are famous for not always drinking enough, and better hydration matters. Sometimes the answer is as simple as moving the bowl away from food, trying a wider bowl, refreshing the water more often, or offering a fountain. Small changes can make a big difference when you're working with the cat's instincts instead of against them. And then there's the behavior that makes people joke their cat is seeing ghosts, staring at empty corners, following something invisible across the ceiling, freezing, and watching a blank wall like a detective in a horror movie. It's easy to make this mystical, but the reality is usually more grounded and, in some ways, more fascinating. Cats are built to notice tiny movements and subtle sounds that humans miss completely. A faint rustle in the wall, a small insect near the ceiling, light flicker, distant vibrations. What looks like nothing to you may not be nothing to your cat at all. That same sensory world explains why cats love boxes so much. People laugh because the box seems too small, too plain, too boring. But a box offers edges, cover, warmth, and control. It turns open space into a manageable little zone. For a species that often feels safest when it can observe without being exposed, that's powerful. A box is not just a container. It's a hiding place, lookout post, nap chamber, and stress reducer all at once. And maybe that's the bigger truth behind all of this. A lot of the things cats do stop looking random once you realize they are constantly balancing 4 needs: safety, control, stimulation, and connection. They need when they feel secure. They rub on you to reinforce familiarity. They demand open doors because access helps them relax. They ambush your ankles because a predator still lives under all that softness. They choose the faucet, the box, the corner of the room, the laptop, the late-night sprint, because each of those behaviors solves something in the cat's inner world. That's why living with a cat can feel mysterious right up until the moment it suddenly doesn't. The oddness is real, but it's not empty. Underneath the quirks is a nervous system trying to feel safe, a body following old instincts, and a social animal finding its own ways to say, "This is mine, this matters, I trust you, I need something, I'm here." And maybe the most comforting part is this: your cat does not need you to understand every signal perfectly. It just needs you to notice that the signals are there. Because once you stop seeing your cat as random and start seeing it as expressive, everyday life changes. The strange habits become clues. The annoying moments become easier to manage. And some of the behaviors you used to shrug off start to feel surprisingly tender. So the next time your cat needs your blanket, blocks your keyboard, sprints down the hallway at midnight, or rubs against your legs the second you walk in the door, don't just write it off as cats being cats. There's usually more being said than most people ever realize. If this made you see your cat differently, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more cat behavior breakdowns that help you understand what your cat is really trying to tell you.